and thank you for coming back on my channel. I'm so happy to see you. I hope you're well. I hope your family is well. And yeah, today I thought I'll talk about how to teach your child a second language. As I said in previous videos, we are a polyglot family. We speak 5 languages. We as a family, yeah, I don't personally, but my kids do, and Sam does as well. So our kids and my husband speak 5 languages, and I just want to share a little bit our experience in how we got there and some strategies, what we saw works best. And yeah, I hope you find it helpful and that you will have the courage to go out after this video and teach your child a second language if you speak a second language. So how our story began: we met at a Bible college in England. We saw each other, we fell in love, we got married, moved to Alba Iulia, where we currently live, and after a few years I got pregnant. The moment we found out we were pregnant, we were excited, happy. It was a new chapter of our lives with new challenges, new blessings, so we're really super excited. The moment I found out I was pregnant, Sam started reading and studying everything from potty training to speaking languages. In our culture in Romania, there's a lot of old wives' tales that people believe, and because of that, even doctors. I mean, we have this thing which calls the trage curentul, which has to do with you get a headache from the draft and your teeth are hurting from the draft, when in reality your teeth are hurting because you have a problem and you have to go and sort it out. But anyways, from the fact that, I don't know, with a baby you should raise your temperature to 27 in the house because otherwise your child will be cold, all sorts of things. So Sam and I as well, but especially Sam, started reading, studying, and getting ready for becoming parents, or full-time parents, should I say, because in my opinion, the moment you find out you're pregnant, you're already a parent. So we came to the subject of languages, as Sam was brought up as bilingual. He was born in France. He lived in France up to 14. So in the house, he spoke English with his English family, obviously. And outside of the house, he spoke French. So he was brought up as bilingual. So we thought we would try the same thing with our kids. I was going to speak only in English, Sam only in French, and the world around us in Romanian, because we're living in Romania. By the way, if we were to live in a different country, I would have spoken Romanian to our kids. I wanted them to learn Romanian as well because I'm Romanian and because they have family, grandparents, uncles, aunties, cousins that live in Romania and speak only Romanian. So yeah, that would have been our story, but because we chose to live in Romania, I chose to speak English, Sam French, and the rest of the world in Romanian. So we decided we're gonna be 100% constant with that. So basically, whenever we were talking to the baby in the belly, while he was still not born yet, I spoke only in English, Sam only in French. The amazing thing is, when I gave birth to both of them, it was the same with Milo and Liam. Unfortunately, I had to give birth by cesarean, a whole story about the Romanian health system, and there's no point going into it. The important thing is that I'm here, I'm healthy, the kids are well, and they were born. That's the most important thing. So, but the interesting thing is, after, obviously, they took, for example, Milo out, they told me that he was a boy because we didn't want to find out the sex of the baby until he was born. They brought him to me so I could just kind of kiss him a little bit. They obviously still had to stitch me up and everything. They got Milo out to measure him, do all the tests and everything that needs to be done. And then they brought him to Sam. When the nurse brought him to Sam, he was crying. It was the same for Milo and Liam. And the moment that Sam picked him up and started speaking to him in French, of course, he calmed down. It was the same story with both of our kids. And obviously they were crying because of everything happening new, but they calmed down when they heard Sam's voice, because they recognized the voice, because Sam was speaking to my belly. So by the way, dads, future dads especially, don't be scared to talk to the baby inside the belly, because there's a connection that forms there and the baby will recognize your voice when he's out of the belly. So yeah, don't feel silly or don't find it awkward. There's a human being inside of there. A human being that is going to get used to your voice. Anyways, let's get back to the story, right? So that was our story. Our kids grew up. I remember vividly Liam being 1.5 years old. By the way, we expected them to speak late. We knew that this is a possibility or a side effect, a temporary side effect of children that are being taught more than one language. It didn't happen with us. They didn't speak fast or late, just normal, average, I will say. But I vividly remember an episode where Liam was 1.5. I remember exactly where we were. And he pointed towards the table and he said, mange, which basically in French means eat. He was asking for food. Next second, he looks back and he sees that it's me there, it's not his dad. And without me saying anything, like we're talking about seconds, he looks at me and he says, eat, mommy, eat. So he automatically saw it was me, it wasn't Sam. So he knew to change the language because we were so constant with the language. It's such an amazing and such a nice memory of knowing that even at that age, they knew that with the dad, they speak a language, with the mom, they speak a different language. Be ready to receive criticism. We were criticized, ridiculed, told off from doctors to, I don't know, I would say lawyers, but not exactly, specifically lawyers, but from doctors to teachers to, not pastors, but to leaders, to whatever you want. Basically, no matter where in the society the people were, we found people that were telling us that we're doing a bad thing, that what we are doing is not good, that we're gonna mess up our kids, that they're gonna be so confused that they won't be able to speak in any language properly, and that we are just basically destroying our kids. So be ready for that. We knew what we knew. We did our homeworks. We knew what works from studies, from other people's experiences. We obviously smiled all the time, so thank you for the unsolicited advice. We didn't say that, obviously, but we just said thank you, smiled, and moved on with our thing, knowing that what we're doing is okay. And life proved it that we did the right thing. Our kids can speak 5 languages and read in 3, almost 4 of those 5 languages at 6.5 and 8.5. That's the age of our kids at the moment. So yeah, be ready to receive criticism. So how did they learn Spanish and how did they learn Italian? Because you already figured out how they learn Romanian, English, and French. Part of Sam's family lives in Spain. He lived in Spain for about 3 years before we got married. So obviously he learned the Spanish language. He spoke it every time we went to Spain with his friends and whatnot. So the kids were really excited seeing Sam speak a different language. And then what they did was every time they would play, they started with the game Uno. By the way, another parenthesis, Sam spent so much time with our kids, playing with our kids, investing time with our kids, doing all the silly things. And I really respect him and appreciate that. And I know that our kids, when they are adults, they'll be very, very thankful to their dad because he spent so much time with them. So as an encouragement, dads, spend more time with your kids. Sam was actually telling me the other day that one thing he will never regret is spending and investing so much time in our kids. So don't be afraid to go against the culture. Whereas in the culture tells you, if you see him 10 minutes a day, it's fine. Don't be afraid to go against the culture and spend time with your kids. I'm closing the parentheses and going back. So every time they would play the game Uno, Sam slowly taught them the numbers, the colors, very simple things. So every time they would open the box where the Uno cards were in, they would speak in Spanish. Then the kids asked, Dad, when we go to the kindergarten, because they used to go to kindergarten or nursery, depending where you're watching from, can we speak in Spanish in the car? Because Sam used to bring them, drop them off, and I used to go and pick them up at lunchtime. So Sam said, okay. So every time they went to kindergarten in the morning, they would speak in Spanish. Things developed more, kids asked for more, so then Sam said, okay, every Sunday is Spanish day, so they would speak Spanish every Saturday. Not Sunday, sorry. And basically, they just went on and on and on, and they developed vocabulary, and they could speak. We went to Spain for a month, 3 years ago, I think it was, 4 years ago this summer, and they managed to speak a whole month. They made the rule, Sam made the rule and said, okay, while we're in Spain, we're only gonna speak Spanish. and they did really well. They could understand it, speak it. When we came back from Spain, Sam started learning Italian. He's working for an app that teaches languages. The app is called Mosalingua. I'm going to leave a link down below. Maybe you want to go and check it out. It doesn't have Romanian in the platform, but obviously has English and other languages. And as Sam was using the app in learning Italian, the kids started asking that we would like to learn Italian as well. So they started the whole process again. Every time they would play Uno, because that was the simplest way. It was just had to do with numbers, colors, and very few saying +2 and very basic vocabulary. And from there, they started the whole process until the kids learned. And in about a year and so, they could speak fluently at their level of children, of course, they could speak fluently Italian. So now what Sam did, because there were 3 languages he had to speak, he created a strategy that, by the way, works for us as a family. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It depends on the style of your family. It depends on how you work as people. We are very organized and we work very well having a set and specific routine. So what we find the easiest, and it works with us, Sam said Monday, Tuesday is Spanish day, which means they only speak in Spanish to Sam and Sam to them. Wednesday and Thursday they only speak Italian, and then from Friday till Sunday they speak French. I speak obviously only English, and sometimes we fool around and we all speak in French, and the kids are excited to see that mommy can speak French as well. But basically, yeah, this is our story. We had an issue when they were at kindergarten. We realized that they were very embarrassed to speak Romanian when we were around. So basically, they would be fine with a teacher at kindergarten speaking, communicating. The moment I would go, or both of us would go to pick them up, if the teacher was to ask them something, they wouldn't say anything. So we realized we faced a problem. We searched for a solution, and the solution we found, and we told them, they agreed on it, and then together we implemented it, was that every time we were gonna give them a bath in the evening, we would speak in Romanian. So every time we opened the door of the bathroom, going in to give them a bath, we started speaking Romanian. At first it was a bit awkward for them, but then with time they became comfortable and now they have no problem speaking Romanian with us. So yeah, that's our story. I'm going to talk about three strategies in teaching your child a second language, and one of them is one parent, one language, which is what we did from basically pregnancy until quite, 3-4 years, because up to that age they only spoke 3 languages. And we did it by me speaking only English, Sam speaking only French, and then obviously Romanian, because we lived in Romania and everybody else was speaking Romanian. So this is one parent, one language. So basically, if you know a second language, whichever that is, from Hungarian to Roma language to German, Italian, or whatever, Chinese, go for it. I encourage you to teach your child a second language if you already know it. So one of the strategies that worked really well for us was one parent, one language. Pretty easy, right? Then there's another strategy, which is time and place strategy. This was very much when Sam was teaching them Spanish or Italian, which was restricted to a time or place. Place, basically, whenever they would open the Uno game, they would speak only Spanish or Italian when they learned the languages, or the time specific when they were in the car driving to kindergarten, they would only speak the language. So it was a very time and place strategy. So the child knows when we are here, I'm gonna speak this language with my parent. It's a very good strategy if you don't feel comfortable, or if you don't want to speak the second language all the time. You could just make it as a rule. Okay, when we're in the car, we're gonna speak this language, or when we are playing this game, we're gonna speak this language. When we're cooking, you can choose whatever works best for your family. Sam still uses it, just the way I described it. Monday, Tuesday is Spanish, is a time specific strategy. On Monday and Tuesday, they only speak in Spanish, and so on and so forth. There's a third strategy, which is called the mixed language strategy, which involves a parent teaching children or a child more than one language at a time. This, by what we saw and by what we know, this is the most prone to failing, just because unless you're very organized, uh, very organized basically person, it will be very hard to give the same amount of time to every language that you want to speak or you want to teach your child in. And by what we saw in even in our large family or people around us, because we do have friends that speak a different language with their child, and but in one of these strategy, the mixed language strategies, what we saw is the children learn all the languages. They can probably speak most of them, not at the same level. They understand it, but they will always prefer only one of the languages. And they will always choose to speak in that language, even though they could probably speak in the language that you're trying, in one of the languages you're trying to teach them. So that's a danger just to keep in mind. Obviously, something is better than nothing. So, okay, he might not be able to speak it, but he might understand it, which is still a plus for life. But just so you know what we saw from experiences around us, if you do this mixed language strategy, I suppose to have success, you will kind of have to use the second one with the time and place strategy, so that you kind of combine them, and like this, the child knows in which situation to speak which language. Just to keep in mind. Yeah, we encourage parents, especially in Romania, there's a lot of parents that can speak Spanish, and it's annoying to see that they don't teach their child. They could be giving them such a big gift, but then again, it's their choice. But if you're one of those parents that would love to teach your child a second language that you can speak, go for it. Just a few things before I end. Don't expect to know it to perfection, which basically might not be your case, but in Romania and in Romanian culture, it's very much I have to know it perfectly before I can speak it. Don't worry about it. Just speak it as well as you know it, and you'll be surprised that your child at one point will be better than you. And really, that's the goal, that your child will be better. So it was the same with us. I speak English. I don't speak it to perfection. Obviously, if you listen just this video, you saw mistakes I made. My accent is not the best. So what? Can you understand what I say? Yes. And that's the most important thing. So yeah, don't expect to know it to perfection. Just do it. Again, because we're talking about a different culture. I don't know how it's over in your country and in the educational system, but normally here in school, in normal stage school, learning a language starts with some song in first grades, but then it goes straight to grammar, and that's not the natural way of learning a language. Just think of how you told your child to speak in the language that you speak in. You didn't start by explaining all the grammar. You didn't start with talking about science. You started with mom, dad, food, cat, dog, and then the vocabulary developed, and then the child could put two words together, and because you were speaking, he could mime and he learned the language. So just kind of follow the same flow. Be encouraged. Thank you for staying until the end. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. Maybe you know different strategies, and I'll see you next time. Bye.